If by chance you are dreaming right now, wake up! Welcome to Horror Nights! Welcome everybody to Horror Nights. You know the time of the week. It is Tuesday. We're here. You got me, Victor, and we got a very special guest with us tonight. One Rakeem JH Lawrence from Scared Stiff Films to talk about, well, horror and what he's done in horror. Welcome to the show.
How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Thanks for inviting me to your show.
Of course, I love talking horror, and I love talking to people that make horror and have the mind for horror. I think well, those are my people. Horror people are my people. I see them as normal people, and people that don't like horror, I find to be rather abnormal, are kind of the scary people, because it's like if you don't like horror, what do you like? What's your output? Everybody has these dark emotions at a time, whether it's sadness, anger, whatever. The horror people, we can put it to a movie, we can put it to a film, we can put it to a story, we can put this darkness someplace good. And
Right.
I find that to be almost comforting, we have a spot for the darkness.
Exactly.
Because let's face it, whether you're making, a B comedy horror, you're trying to, make something important, like, to tell a message like Megan is missing or something. You're making something that has emotion behind it, a reason and a purpose, regardless, even if it's a personal reason and purpose. So I believe that every, person has a story to tell. Every video has a story to tell. Whether, critic people like it or not, it still has a story. Some videos just, they get deemed art house videos. They might not have, this huge cinematic following, but people understand the purpose of the film.
Exactly.
Let me ask you, when did you get into making horror films?
I started making movies back in 2004. A little bit like 2004 when I was in college, but I had a love for horror for many decades since I was like 2 years old.
Right? Renting the good VHSs back at the video rental stores and picking out the covers and seeing all these, I would say great icons, because those the 70s, 80s movies were, and even early 90s, it was something different than it is today. Yeah, we got good movies, but those characters, they're still thriving today in today's world of horror. People still going out to see them. You still have sold out arenas to meet Robert Englund.
Yes, exactly. Yes. It's nothing like the old days. I was born in the mid 70s, and I started going to the video store roughly in the 80s, and the way you decided what you wanted to pick to take home that night or afternoon or whatever time of day you decided to rent the film, we went by the box art and also word of mouth from your friends in school.
Now you're similar. You're a little bit older than me as well, Vic. So you'd be similar in that age. I mean, I'm not that much younger, but you obviously have memories. You remember going to the video store and picking out some horror movies and such?
Look, first run video.
That's the name of the store, yeah.
There's the horror section where it's right next to the wrestling and right next to the porn.
See, we had backstage videos. So we had wrestling was behind the video games, but we had horror along the wall, and then the wall stopped to a little double door, and in the double door was the porn section.
Yeah, it was like you see the wall. It's like you're going down the wall, see all the horror, and all of a sudden the door.
Yeah, I tried to play. I played like Commando a few times, going under and in and see what was going on in there. But for the most part,
I was born and raised in New York City, so it was just out there. They didn't take too much heed. You know what I'm saying? They just had like a curtain up, or one of those beaded things, and you could go right in there. You could just go right in there, depending on what store clerk was there. But I miss those days with the mom and pop shops. That's where it all started. But unfortunately, in my opinion, Blockbuster and Hollywood Video ruined the mom and pop shops, those corporations.
They did. I ended up I worked for both of them actually, and why they were good in theory of what they were doing. They 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 took a very wide market and made it very small because you at one point the mom and pop places were just picking stuff up from anybody that had distribution. Anybody that had a VHS tape, we'll take it. And we will make money. We'll keep renting it until it's gone, even if it's just one copy. Blockbuster, Hollywood, they didn't go after obscure titles. They got after money makers only, and they'd get 10 copies or 20 copies. And we would field destroy them every month down to 5 copies. But a lot of the titles never went over there. I was still going to the mom and pop stores to get all these horror films because they only had what was coming out in theaters, and the Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Street. They had the main stuff, but by that point, I was already looking for other stuff that was starting to become obscure. And this stuff still never even made it to DVD, never made it to streaming. Just now, just today, and in today's market, some of these newer places like Severin Films and other ones are picking up these old VHS titles and putting them to Blu-ray. But they haven't been available for 30, 40 years, some of these videos. And I'm not saying they're good, but they still have their cinematic plots. They still have movies. There's still another horror film, one more film to see. Because I feel like today's market in the horror world, while it's really vast, it isn't. I was on Tubi the other day. I like Tubi for their horror movies, but they also just take a lot of cut and paste videos. I watched one movie about a die box, and then I watched 4 other movies about a similar thing. Exact same lines, exact same plot, exact same time.
A lot of those
Just different actors.
the Tubi originals, right? Those Tubi originals, like you said, this is repetitive,
And I'm just like, I would rather see some bullshit movie from the 80s with bad physical effects than just some copy cut paste movie.
Exactly. Like all of my movies in this day and time, I base all of my movies on my style of filmmaking is VHS style and 80s style.
So you go for that almost analog kind of grainy look.
Well, in my earlier films, I did that. Nowadays, I got like 2 or 3 4K films, but that's what shaped it to me. You know what I'm saying? Like the movie that made me want to make movies is one of my favorite series. The Phantasm series. Phantasm that started in '79. That series, and I was laying across my grandmother's bed one hot summer, and from the time I seen that, I knew what I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? I knew I wanted to make horror movies.
I haven't seen the pianist. I'm answering a question here. I haven't actually seen that movie. I don't know if either of you two have. Have you
Yeah, you
seen
got to
that
check out.
movie, Vic? The
You got
pianist.
to
I'll
check
have to
out the
check it out.
Phantasm series. It's a great series, man.
Phantasm.
Yeah, directed by Don Coscarelli. And one thing I like about him, he's sticking to his convictions of not doing a remake or letting anybody do a remake. And I like that.
You have to respect that. The only people I think that should make remakes is the director themselves. Like when the guy went back and remade the American version of Funny Games, I think that's okay. If you want to take a movie, at least have the guidance of the original people. I thought probably the best remake to date and one of the only valid like major horror remakes that I would consider would be Texas Chainsaw
What about
2003.
what about Eli Roth? He did over Cabin Fever. It wasn't good
Yeah,
as the
but
first one, but I liked it.
I liked it, but it wasn't good as the first one. We actually lost your video, Rakeem.
Yeah, yours went out too, sir.
Vic, are you seeing me or what are you seeing?
I see you now. Can you see me?
No, I'm gonna-
I see you. I do not see him.
I see me and everybody.
Roll with it. That's what I said.
I can see y'all. Y'all can't see me?
no, but I can hear you.
What about now?
No,
I can I can see you guys clearly and me. I don't know what's going on.
maybe it's just the app itself because I can hear you perfectly fine. And if it was your camera, you wouldn't be able to see yourself. Maybe it will kick back on. I don't know. Maybe it's just
Exactly. I don't know
something wrong.
what's
Oh,
going on.
there it is. See, just like that. Back to StreamYard. It must be a StreamYard issue. Um, but I was gonna say, no, I get that. You started off early, and I know what you mean. Like when you started shooting, obviously there was different cameras involved than what you shot today. When you made your first films in the early 2000s, were you shooting on film or did you go digital from the start?
I went digital from the start. Back in the days, I couldn't afford film equipment, so I used the school's equipment. My first semester of school, I made my first horror movie. It was a horror comedy entitled The Crate. And I got distribution right away, but that didn't work out too good. And I just cut out the middleman. I'm my own distributor now.
And I think that for independent films, to be honest with you, sometimes that's the way to go. You have the control, you can do your own things if you have the asset. And I get what you mean. I think that's the big difference in today's world and even in that 2000s time is, prior to that, to make a movie, you needed actual real film and you needed real film equipment. And then you needed to be able to edit film, like cut it and stuff. And all of that was astronomically expensive to the average person. The average person couldn't just buy a camera and shoot a film in a weekend. It would cost them good money. Now today you can go and order one on Amazon. You can get a couple of lenses. You can get everything you need for about $5,000 if you really want to. I use like a Black Magic camera. It works great, 4K. You buy
Yeah,
a rig, you buy a couple of things. Everything's affordable. Even if you want to go a couple more, you can get. What is 10,000 now is like 40,000 then
exactly.
for the cinema world.
That's why I always embrace the older movies that paved the way because it wasn't easy. Everything was linear then. Like you said, they had to cut and paste the film. And then it turned into non-linear where you just use the editing computer and it's much easier to maneuver.
It
And
is. I mean,
nowadays,
I couldn't even imagine having to edit film like as cells and sitting there and cutting and pasting literally and trying to do this and that and match it with the sound, not using it digitally. Like granted, I came in, I learned how to do things digitally in school and such. They didn't really teach us about actual film. We learned like photo film and how to develop and stuff, but not so much like 16 millimeter or 35 millimeter actual film. They never really like taught us that in school. They just taught us everything digitally by that point, because the first camcorders and stuff were already right there when I was in high school. And they figured that would be the way of the future. Granted, I know even today that people they would love to shoot on actual film because of the nostalgia. Um,
well, like I
I-
tell new filmmakers, the best way to learn is to go out there and just do it. Because when I was in school, I really didn't learn too much. Like hands on is always the best way when it comes to this craft.
I think so. I think I do believe in that. I mean, you can go to school until you're blue in the face, and you can go to seminars and learn from people as much as you can. But unless you physically out there fixing with the camera, sitting home playing with color grades, or trying to match audio, you're not going to understand that experience. And even me, I try to do everything just to do it. I'll make short films all by myself, starring myself, with myself, no crew, cast, nothing, just because I want to learn all the different parts of the film and then the editing process and so forth. And and then, like you said, today's world very accessible. Even if you don't want to, throw money into a camera or such, you can use your phone. There's people that are making movies that are distributed using, an iPhone 16, and
Right.
they throw it on cinematic, or they throw it on whatever log, and they film it out, and then they make a movie. And sometimes that's all it just takes is just film. Just get it out there. You have an idea, put it to paper, or put it even right to film, and just get it out there. See what you can do. Was it hard for you to get your first film done? Did you have like a lot of struggles with it, or was it something that felt very natural?
Well, I was already writing screenplays since 1992. And the way I learned that was basically reading them, and it was easy. I just lacked equipment. And once I got into school and got that equipment, I busted out. And it was like a great feeling when I made my first movie, when I shot the first scene, seeing my project come to life. It was like a rush seeing my project come to life off a page onto a cinematic platform and stuff like that. And wasn't too hard. Um, it basically the only issue I had basically was I had to get better at, and I got better at as each film came along was editing. Now I'm a suffice editor. I'm great at editing.
Well, I think editing takes time, and a lot of people don't like to do it because it does take time. It's not an easy science. Sometimes you could edit the whole thing, and then you're like, "Damn, this actually isn't that good. Got to go back and restart, or the timing isn't right. Something is off. Something is wrong." And so I believe with that, it's like it's a learning process. Me personally, I enjoy editing. I love like kind of going through something, playing with the grades. I like to play with, the colors. I use Da Vinci a lot, trying to match older colors or 70 colors and try to get the yellows and different things to pop. I find that to be very interesting, especially coming from like a graphic design background originally. And so with that, I'm like, I would rather almost do my own editing because I think that I've gotten what my project idea is. And granted, these are small projects, but at that point, it's like I might as well just do it. Now, if it was a full feature film, I don't know. I probably need help on it just because time and everything else. But
Right.
at the end of the day, I would still want to, at least because I've done editing or learned editing, I'd be able to talk to an editor and be able to work with them rather than just, hey, here's the project, send it back to me when it's done. I'd be able to
Right.
like answer questions or understand their lingo. And same thing with the sounders, whoever wants to do the sound, if they need, whatever, I'll be able to at least talk to them and give them ideas and talk their language as well, instead of just handing them a blank slate and say, hey, make this sound good. And
Right.
I kind of did that deliberately, learn things that I might never use in the future, or I might pass off to other people, but only so I can communicate with them.
Period. Right. Yeah, I basically edited all my projects, and I write, produce, edit, and direct all my own stuff, and all of my projects, except for my new project, was produced. My newest project, I'm executive producing it, but I love editing. That's my favorite aspect.
No, and I think that's where you get to actually, you get to pick your tone of your film. It's yes, what's on raw camera is the film, but then how you make things look and even different grades will change the way a film looks. It will give a whole different definition. The sound too, how you pitch the sounds, what you use for sound can even change different horror movies. It can make something sound like a goofy horror movie, or it can make something sound really scary. Or when to not use any sound, just use that awkward silence. You know,
Exactly.
that's
That's what
that's
makes or
another
break a
thing.
horror movie. The music is what makes and breaks horror movies. That's a very important element in a horror film.
It is. I'm a big horror film person. I like the scores. I collected a lot of scores over the years, and just I enjoy listening to themes and listening to what composers do. But then I like to listen to the other aspects of the film. Is when what are they using for rises? When are they doing it in a way that I can anticipate every kill scene, or are they doing it in there to trick me to get me a false scare? How many times are they using the same technique? Because some films, they'll do the same thing, and then all of a sudden, you know that the kill's coming. But then they do other things which sound like Jaws. Jaws, yeah, you
Exactly.
hear that shark come, but they did something cool with that. It got louder as it got closer, and when it killed you, it was loudest, and then as it went away, the song faded, as if the shark was swimming away. That's a really cool aspect, especially in an older film to do and to even think of. But these
Exactly.
songs are iconic. I mean, I could tell any horror films like, just pieces of themes, and they'll, two riffs, and they know songs, and they're embedded in us. Like, Halloween theme, for instance. John Carpenter did an amazing job just making an iconic song.
Oh, exactly. Him. Um, who else is good at that? Alan Horworth.
Oh yeah. My favorite though would probably be it would be I mean some people consider it horror. I would consider it more horror thriller drama, but would be what Clint Mansell did for Requiem for a Dream. I thought that was a brilliant soundtrack on that film.
Yeah, that was definitely good.
Because you had that symphony kind of sound, but it was just that plus the visuals. It worked sometimes. Like even Midsummer had a very good soundtrack because it went paired with the crazy visuals. So even Cannibal Holocaust, if you go back years and years, like it had a very different soundtrack from your typical horror film. The guy scored it like it was some kind of beautiful like nature landscape, and yet you have all this brutality happening on screen, but it worked in harmony in a beautiful way.
What about the little sounds and tunes and Tales from the Hood?
Oh, that's a beautiful film. I mean, besides the actual soundtrack, just like you said, those the little sounds they use, like in I want to say the episode with the puppets was very very creepy. That made that story extra scary.
Very. Oh, with the
Uh
slave owner and the puppets
yep, and they
that
made it so
jumped
that
out in
you
the
had
portrait.
yeah, and and you had the kind of the politician guy, with the racial tone, but he wanted to look good, but that first movie to me, I mean, they were all pretty good, but that first movie to me, especially, I think spoke to the times because I think it was, if I'm correct, it was after the Rodney King incident. So they pushed that with that first episode with the police and the beating and the guy, and then the second one was the abuse at home with the son, and then the third one was the doll owner, and then the fourth one they tied back to the beginning with the gang shooting. But I
Yeah, but
thought
the
that was a very
wraparound, the
yeah,
wraparound
the
stories was
wraparound.
good too.
That's what I'm saying. That movie to me actually got me into the idea of loving anthology horror, and urban horror both, because I believe there's a good market in urban horror, not Leprechaun, the Hood, and stuff, but there's a lot of good horror movies that get into the hood that don't make it campy and goofy, and it's made from a different perspective. It's not your typical story. And that movie there, honestly, was one of the ones that I used to rent over and over as a kid. I would take it home. I thought it was great, and even the opening scene with the skull and the skeleton smoking the blunt. I mean, I still can picture it now. It's still one of my movies that I watch on rotation. But it shaped my mind for what anthology horror is, and I think from that point on, I started to really like anthologies because it was little bits of stories. Instead of having to sit there for 2 hours watching a full story, I was getting the same stories packed in a smaller amount of time in like 3 or 4 of them.
Exactly. What about Creep Show?
That was another great one too, and to me, that was almost like it was a little bit more sci-fi than, Tales from the Hood. That had that, because I was a big fan of also movies like Friday, Boys in the Hood, and other movies of that nature. So it's like when I saw that, I popped because I was a big, out of my whole family, everybody listened to like rock, and I was the only one that was listening to like West Coast rap out of Boston. So like when that movie I saw it, I was like, wow, this is two of the greatest things. I got the rap world and I got, the horror combining because you had the Spice 1K song in the beginning. You had some good elements in that. But when I got a hold of that one, Creepshow, I actually saw the second one first and then I went back. I love the fact that it was all different, there was a collab of directors. And you had the cameo with Stephen King in there.
Yeah, Stephen
And you
King
had
does a cameo on all of his books. Any of his books that was turned into a movie, he always wants a little part in there. But the most eeriest movie I ever seen was Pet Cemetery. To this day, as a grown man, I can still feel the eeriness in there.
it's a scary movie. We talk about that all the time. And I think it's probably because for me it was the first movie I ever saw where they killed a kid. But also they have to kill the kid again. And that second time that kid isn't nice. That's a creepy, scary movie. And it makes you wonder because I mean, we do live in a world that we don't know a lot of things. We think we know everything, but science doesn't explain everything. And there is these kinds of ancient belief systems out there that if you go back, something like that could happen. If you're in a small ass town in the middle of nowhere, who knows what could happen? I
Exactly.
remember,
All the horror movies I write, like I told you, I base it on like the whole 80s formula. They small town horror movies. I don't do like urban stuff. It's small town horror movies. Each and every movie I've made so far.
well, and I mean, I think that sets the setting. Because and if you're gonna make a horror movie, or you think of horror movies, right? Or you think of horror in general, I mean, some of the most scariest things would happen to be if you lost somewhere, if you can't, get contact anyone. Now, today's world, it's hard to get lost and it's hard not to contact. We got these cell phones, we got GPSs, this and that. That's why all the movies were great. They had a map that maybe didn't work, and when phones were barely existent. And if they found a payphone, it was dead, and it would just keep going. So I like when people kind of go back a little bit because then you can kind of erase these common amenities and make the dread a little bit more real, make the isolation feel a little bit more real. Because if I go back to my childhood, I would be afraid getting lost back then, or even going on trips because if you missed the road and you didn't have the map, this was even before MapQuest and computers. Like you had to rely on the highway or ask people for directions, or but people were still hitchhiking back then too, like it was nothing.
Exactly. And they'll steer you to some back road somewhere where you'll never be found again.
Or they were friendly, cool people and were like, "Hey, I'll buy you a beer." Like you never knew though. That was the crazy part. I mean, I'm from Boston. I'm not that far off, but from where you're at. But that's the crazy thing. Like you never really knew it, and people just took more. I think people took more risks back then on other people. Like they're like, "Yeah, sure, I'll give you a ride," and if they made it, they made it. And once in a while, they wouldn't, and you'd hear about this terrible story, and then we'd be told why not to hitchhike or pick up hitchhikers. 80s, 90s, and even early 2000s, I think was just a scary time period. I mean, look at like a movie like Blair Witch Project. If that happened today, that wouldn't be that scary. We have too many modern amenities to make that movie obsolete.
What about the car? You ever saw the car?
Is that the one where the guy like follows? He's
A
being
car
followed.
following people. Yes, from the 70s.
Okay, yeah,
And then they have one called the hearse.
okay.
Yeah, you got to check those out.
One of my favorite movies is kind of it plays off that whole back road story. It's called Dead End. It's an older
Oh, I
film. It had
like that
Lene.
one.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I consider it a Christmas film too, but it had a way about it that just was very unique because again, you want to, and I always love that idea. A, woods, and B, long ass roads. If you want a long ass road that's going nowhere, there's something just automatically scary about that. Like the old Twilight Zone episode, even when the lady was traveling and traveling, she kept seeing the same hitchhiker. You know, can I have a lift? Can I have a lift? Like I was a big Twilight Zone fan too, so a lot of my stuff comes kind of from that. They're more scarier episodes, but yeah, there's something about just being in the middle of nowhere.
What about Vincent Price, The Last Man on Earth? You ever seen that?
I have actually seen that. I actually saw that at one of the horror conventions. They were showing it.
Yeah. So,
I it,
what do you, as you as a filmmaker, I have a question for you. What do you prefer, visual effects or practical effects? Me, practical, but nowadays I might throw a little visual effects in there to spice a little things up, but it'll be little things here and there, like a little blood splatter or something like that. But I'm still in a realm of
I mean,
visual, little
I
bit.
haven't really. Well, I haven't really personally had gotten into that next step where I brought in an FX artist, but I would prefer practical effects 99% of the time when it comes to horror. The only time I will deal with like a little bit of digital effects is sometimes if you need some ghosts, if you need something more on the spirit realm, you need some little smoke or a little of this, a little of that. But I try not to use the fake blood and such on that. I'd rather just see a stab wound or see a stab just because that's what I grew up with.
Right.
Um Sci-fi and but like in a sci-fi movie, I would probably prefer 99% of the time they use visual effects rather because the practical effects look like cheap sci-fi movies. You see the strings and shit.
You know
So
what's crazy? With them putting all these older movies out, I noticed a lot of flaws, a lot of stuff. Like the blood is like light red. And John Carpenter's Halloween, the 4K, you can see the tape on the floor, you can see the shadows. Like,
well, I'll be honest with you. I don't think horror was meant for 4K. It was meant for VHS and VHS only. And because of the
exactly.
way VHS was shown, the contrast and everything, things look darker, things look scary. You couldn't make out faces crystal clear. You couldn't make out small details crystal clear. It gave you more mystique. Now you bring it into 4K, you can see everything. And again, you can see mistakes that, well, first of all, I mean, that was an indie film. And by all purposes, that budget was an indie budget, but you'll start to see flaws in other movies too, because at the time, they never even imagined 4K. They just figured, well, okay, it might go to theater. Theater wasn't 2K at the time. They were still using the film projector, so it would be the same as VHS, if not even lesser quality. You'd have 16 millimeter showings, which would show even less.
What is your favorite foreign horror films? Mine's is Demons and Demons 2, Argento.
I like my Jalos, but I also like I'm really big fan of the French films. I like my Martyrs and I like my high tension films. I also like Japanese horror. I just actually met the woman from Audition that played in Audition. I thought that was a really good movie.
Nice. Yeah, that was a good one.
But no,
What
I do
about the
like my
Train to Busan? That was good.
Train to Busan was good.
Yeah.
I've also became a fan of some Turkish films. Baskin, I thought was done very well by Cam Aronal. What else was there? Like I said, I've been watching a lot of French films and even some German films like Funny Games. Was it Benny's Video I saw?
What's the bloodiest film you ever saw? Mine's had to be Dead Alive. That end scene with the lawnmower.
I mean, bloodiest scene. I would say shockingest scene. I mean, well, I mean, we watched. I made him watch Serbian film last year to shock value him, but that didn't have a lot of blood and gore. I mean, I would have to say either your film there or maybe August Underground that had a lot of blood in it.
Yeah, that
but
was
it
good.
wasn't.
I own that. I met the director at a convention back in the days. No, but I'm talking about Peter Jackson's Dead Alive.
No, that you're right. Yeah, no. I think, and
Gory.
to go back, we'll talk about him in a second. But no, you're right. Peter, I would say Dead Alive, probably the bloodiest.
Yeah,
I actually liked Peter Jackson's earlier films. I thought like that was good. His other one was good too, and he even did that like fucked up Muppet movie, which was pretty good too. Meet the
Meet the
Feebles.
Feebles, classic.
Yeah, I thought that was really good as well. And to think that he would go on to do such crazy things in Hollywood is wild because those movies weren't you. I mean, I would rent them because, like, I mean, obviously the on one of them, you had the alien giving the middle finger on the cover. That picked me up as a kid. I wanted it. I just
Right,
snatch it. That has sold me. But the movies themselves, go looking back, weren't that crazily made. But my God, they were bloody, gory, and just everything you kind of want from a horror film.
right. When I question a lot of people, what's the scariest movie they seen in their youth? They always say The Exorcist, but that wasn't for me. I wasn't really scared of that.
No,
Just
Exorcist
this,
wasn't scary.
Phantasm scared me because I know the funeral business pretty well, I know it took six pallbearers to lift the casket for one man to lift the casket on his own and put it in the hearse. So I said, "Yeah, that's terrifying."
Yeah, because that, I mean, well, yeah, obviously, if you know it firsthand, but I think the tall man was pretty creepy as a kid.
That's my favorite
I was,
horror
I,
icon, Angus Scrimm.
how is
The tall
Icon?
man.
I like Tarman, honestly. Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, tall man was good.
And I like that whole zombie movie because I think the zombies were the most realistic zombies you're ever gonna see. I mean, they were intelligent, they were smart, they weren't slow, they were still fast, they were still capable, and they were freaking relentless. You had to nuke them to kill them.
Yeah, I like Return of the Living Dead, but my favorite that stole my heart was Part Three
Well,
with
that now you're in
Melinda
Vic's
Clark.
territory. Vic loves
With
that
Melinda
one.
Clark, oh my gosh. I had the privilege of meeting her back in 2019 in Chicago at a con.
Did you?
I got a couple of things signed. I love Return of the Living Dead 3.
I haven't met her yet. I have seen the film. I did meet the most of the cast or whoever's living from the first one. I went to a con last year and met them, and they were cool. I mean, they're great '80s icon, Linnea Quigley and freaking all of them. Very nice people.
I've
Three's
signed
a
on a
different.
few horror cons. I've
I go to a
signed on
lot
a
of them.
few horror cons. I've met they were signing like in other rooms. And I've been collecting. I know you see some of my stuff on Facebook. I've been collecting for 5 decades. So I met these people since I was like a youth, an adolescent, and
Yeah.
I met all of them just about like
No, I just
great
started
people.
go. It's weird. Me and Vic, we started doing Well, I started podcasting in 2020. He, I think, did a little bit earlier, but we were in different genres. We were in pro wrestling. I was doing independent wrestling. He was doing some independent wrestling, and we were both just. And then we collabed on independent wrestling, and then I ended up meeting someone in wrestling that also made horror films, and so like last year or so, he introduced me to all these conventions, and I just went fucking crazy. I went to every con. I go, 7-hour drives. Let's get in the car, boys. We're going to Philly. We're going to Jersey. We're just
I
going.
think I think Monster Mania on the East Coast is the best. They get the best guests. But
Oh,
I signed at Chiller Theater a couple of times.
I went to Monster Mania last month. It was wild. Um, I enjoyed it. It was great. It just there was a lot of people. They need a bigger venue, I think, at this point. They brought in
Well,
like they
well,
brought in the whole, Gary
they
cast. They
had
brought in.
Philly, they had Oaks, PA, then they had Cherry Hill. And the people that throw the convention, the Hagans, very nice people.
Oh, they are. I met them. They introduced themselves at one point because the photo ops were getting crazy. We had the kid from Stranger Things, but now I seen the next one. They're going back to Cherry Hill. they're bringing Robert England. I'm not even going to get near that convention. They've already, I think, sold out. But
Oh,
that line will
listen,
be looped around.
I've been meeting Robert England since the early 80s because my first conventions was Fangoria Weekend in Horrors. I've been doing
Yeah,
these conventions since I was 8. This year I'll be 50 years old, and I happened to get Robert back then, but in the last few years he comes to Monster Mania periodically, so I got him on everything, even a signed glove. So pretty happy.
I
But
was
yeah,
ended
his
up.
lines, 8 hour lines, you're gonna have to get online the night before everything. But you can also get your stuff signed from his website. You
That's
can
what
mail
I
it
did.
to
I
him
did
and
it.
mail it
That's
back.
what I did. I did for
Yeah.
Christmas. I sent stuff out. Got his artist, signed it, sent it back to me. It's beautiful. It looks great. It's authenticated by them. It comes in the same condition, and I was very happy with that. Sometimes them 8 hour, 9 hour lines kill me. If I had gotten the VIP, I just skip it. That's what I did with the kid from Stranger Things. I just skipped the line and jumped in, met him. Everybody else was easy meets. I'm not doing. I don't know if I'm gonna do Cherry Hill the next one. I am supposed to go to Texas Frightmare though. I heard that's a really good convention.
Oh, I went there in 2019. It was pretty good.
I do have VIP for that, so I'm like, at least I can don't have to wait in too bad of lines to meet whoever I want to meet. But I enjoy the cons for many reasons. A, to meet the people, but I also enjoy like the panels, and I also actually really enjoy the vendors. I like to buy shit. Buy either
Yeah.
harder to find movies, DVDs, Blu-rays I don't have to order from online because I collect a lot of physical, or buy a lot of figures. I'm a big NECA figure collector and all shit. So if I can see people selling, I just buy them.
I have hundreds signed. I'll show you one day. I
You
have
know,
my collection is huge, like
oh, I bet if you've
huge.
been going to cons for that long, you at least buying one item at each con. You coming home with something.
You know? And these are some of my movies. I don't know if you could see. Those are
Yeah.
some of, those are some of my films. Right now, I'm working on the Date 2 here, and this is my Grindhouse movie, The Farmhouse and Sarah, and I'm working on Second Chance 2, Sarah Part 1. I have a documentary, Helltime Stories, like this on my shirt. It's my vampire movie, The Date. Yeah, I've been.
Now let me
This is
ask you:
one
Do
of
you
my
think
thesis films, huh?
let me ask you: Do you think being a big fan in horror, as a fan, going to conventions, meeting people, doing fan things, do you think that can actually make you a better film director and make that make you make films better because you know more about the genre?
Um, well, from me attending since I was 8, it helped me to understand how the business goes. It helped me understand how the business goes. But I'm just like a person. I observe everything. I observe people, and I've picked a lot of brains. I had the pleasure of meeting Wes Craven, Toby Hooper, Don Coscarelli. I met so many greats. I met so many greats, and I actually had a chance to talk to them, and I just had to develop my own style, though. You don't want to mimic anybody. I have my own
No,
style of
but learning
filmmaking.
and you take a little piece, or you take ideas, not even ideas, but you take what kind of worked, or what little nods, and you throw them all together, and it's like, but you also get to pick brains because every, we talked about some movies, like I like the movie ABC's of Death because every director took a different stance. You got 26, short films by different directors, and every movie's a little bit different. Some are funny, some are serious, some are fucking twisted, some are sick. It's just, it's all over the place, but it shows how everybody can make something a little bit different. And talking to all those directors, you can ask them the same question. You're gonna get a different answer from every single one of them, which will give you a different perspective.
You know who I enjoyed talking to the most? Mick Garris. Nice
Really,
guy. Mick Garris was
really.
very nice. Yes.
I find it funny. You would think a lot of the times it's the people you would think they would be stuck up or mean seem to be like the nicest people. Like even Robert England, he sits and talks to all his fans. That's why his line is so long.
Yes,
He
he has a story for everybody, and I appreciate it. Mr. England gives you your money's worth. Very nice guy.
you
Every
know,
time I met him, it was always a privilege to meet him.
the only guest I've ever met that I wasn't impressed with was Linda Blair because she didn't like The Exorcist, and I was like, well, if you don't like your only good movie, then I mean,
Oh, we don't want
there's
to
not.
go there about Linda Blair. I'm gonna
But
tell you a
yeah,
quick story. I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I was on a line talking to one of my friends at this convention. I've been meeting her since a kid, but she's changed since she got older. I was on a line talking to one of my friends, and my dog had passed away, and I said, I was telling my friend I'm going to buy another dog. Now, mind you, I was all the way to the back of the line. She drops everything she's doing and storms over to me. You don't buy a dog. You adopt a dog. Yelling and very rude and disrespectful. So, at my stature as a filmmaker, what am I supposed to do? Start yelling at a woman in the middle of a convention causing scene? I just left her alone. But then later on, she came and apologized. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I mean, she misunderstood what you were saying, but I think that's unprofessional of her. I mean, I know she has gotten kind of. She's really into her dog charity, but I think she has gone a little weird in her old age. I mean, she, like I said, wasn't the friendliest person to meet. She wasn't that rude, but I wasn't impressed. I was hoping to hear, while it's not my favorite film, it's an important film, The Exorcist. I mean, if you want to talk my like the best horror, if you want to talk, I would say Rosemary's Baby. I think is scarier
That was great.
because they
Psycho,
use
Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho. I liked all the
Psycho.
Anthony Perkins psychos. I liked all of
Yeah,
them. I
those were
remember
good.
renting those.
But Rosemary's Baby touched me because of the sound, the music. The music freaking gets me. The weird sounds they throw in there in the end during the scenes. By the end of the movie, it's like a fever dream. You're losing your mind. And, and
Exactly.
and and I do like a good satanic panic movie. I don't mind people throwing that around. And at least in their case, they used the right demon. It will always forever piss me off an exorcist instead of using an anti-Christian demon that they used a Mesopotamian demon that actually protects children. And if you do the lure of Pazuzu, it's totally different than what they used for that movie, and they totally demonized some god in some other religion for no reason. And when they could have easily just made it the Christian devil, they could have made it the devil himself.
Right.
And because it had such a strong context to being a Christian film, and there was a lot of people, that were Christian and Catholics at the time, really, that scared them the most because of that fear of being possessed and this and that. I would have thought they would have went all the way and just used something that would have been more closer to home of the Catholic religion than rather than going to some Babylonian god.
Right.
I'm a stickler for weird shit like that, but I liked Rosemary's Baby because they used Satan himself. You're gonna have the child of the devil. Um, I like Anthony Perkins too, though. I think that he was brilliant in the first one, and I think when they brought him back to do the sequels, I think those were some of the sequels that actually worked in cinema because you have a guy that's supposed to be reformed and it tells the story, and he almost looks like he's been reformed. He looks older, he looks like he's been, whatever, and it just works. It feels real in a way. Like the progression of when they did the sequel to the progression of how long he would have been locked up probably makes sense. And I thought it was just a really good series. I like that whole psycho kind of, he was his mother kind of twist. I think it started and it made for a lot of films to go that route or to use that kind of logic or to play with that kind of idea that the killer would or somebody would dress up as someone to kill and then go back to another person, whether it is a mask or whether it's a wig or whatever it is.
Yeah, I like the fact that the sequels 2, 3, and 4 follow the same formula as 1.
They do.
Mhm.
They do. He was very talented, Anthony Perkins. I thought he played a great role. And then I'll be honest, you want to talk about, I mean, I didn't mind that remake of Psycho.
Oh, the one with Vince Vaughn?
Vince Vaughn was okay. I didn't mind it though because it basically was a remake shot for shot.
That's what I like about it. They did shot for shot.
Yeah, and I thought that way it was okay. They didn't deviate from the story. They didn't deviate from the lines. Everything was pretty much the same except different actors.
Right.
So I don't mind it like that. But when you take a remake and you try to like, I don't know, I'm not a fan of the new Halloween movie. You rebranded something, you taking out the lore of the past, and you're trying to change everything. It's like, listen, we've been watching these movies since 1980. What are you telling me Michael Myers doesn't have a niece? What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean 4 and 5
You
don't
know what I
exist? What do
had
you
to
mean?
learn? You know what I had to learn? This is the hands we're dealt. And I just try to accept the movies. I watch these horror movies. If I like them, I try to support all horror. If I like them, I watch them again. If I don't like them, I'll just never watch them again.
Yeah, I'm with you. The one and done method. I mean, I don't go out of my way to destroy films, but if I don't like them, I'll just be like they're not for me, or I can't watch them. But again, every movie has its merits. I mean, even there's movies that people will say are terrible, and I'm like, maybe, but are they terrible because they didn't have budget, or are they terrible because of the story? And there's a difference in that too. Some movies just don't have the budget, but the story is beautiful, and you think to yourself, as a director or as a movie maker, if this had an extra $5,000, this would be gold.
I've seen some good mid-budget movies like The Void, The Lazarus Effect. There's some mid-budget movies that I really liked. Ready or Not, the first one.
Oh yeah, I mean, I like again.
It's a
I
hit
think.
and miss. It's a hit and miss.
I mean, again, in the world of cinema today, it's like, okay, we get a budget. What is the budget doing? Is the budget buying you a set? Is the budget bringing you to a location? Are we bringing in a better star? Or is it paying for special effects?
Right.
And it kind of gets broken down into that category of where the budget's going, where the independent guy's like, okay, I got this amount of money. We got to put this much into the people we're hiring. This got to go to catering. And the rest will go to a location or a permit.
Right.
But I like the mid-range film because it's like they know that the same story can be told with 20 million as 5 million. They
Exactly. I
just
got a
do it. They
question for
just do it
you.
with 5.
I got a
Sometimes less is
question for you.
more.
How do you feel about watching a movie, right? And you could basically say a character's typecast, right? Because you know this character from a movie, and then you see another horror movie, and that same character is in another movie, playing a different character. How do you feel about that? Do you see them as that? It's just like Mark Hamill. When
Well,
I
put it
look at
this way,
Mark Hamill, that's Luke Skywalker to me. You know what I'm saying? I can't like
pretty much for most films, yeah, it's kind of hard, especially if they had an iconic role. It's hard for me to say. Well, I mean,
right,
for instance, you got Mark Hamill, but you got like it's either going to be Indiana Jones or Han Solo for me on the other guy. It's like Harrison Ford. I'm never going to say, oh man, he's also the guy from this, that, and this. It's usually just one or the other. But like some actors have a great range. You can see totally different characters. You can, differentiate them. Other times you see it the same. Like I recently watched Stream again. Stream is made by the producers of Terrifier 1 and 2. One of the killers is David Thornton. He plays Art the Clown. He's in a
right.
mask in Stream.
Yeah,
But
I
if
know
you
them.
watch
I
it,
know them personally. I know everybody involved in that.
they're great people. Mike Levy, awesome guy. I'm a great, I'm a big fan of his, and I've gotten the pleasure to talk to him a bunch of times. And David Thornton, you can see though, if you watch that movie, you can see the mannerisms of Art the Clown. He prances around like a clown. He does this little thing that you can kind of say, well, there's David's killer.
Right.
I like that in that sense, though, because I believe that it's modern horror, and it kind of like it's we never see his face totally. We see Art the Clown's face with the clown mask, and then we see this killer's mask, but we're not seeing an actor's face to say this is that person.
I can't wait to
Like
see the origins where he came from. I think
Art
they're
the
going to
Clown. Yes,
show that
I
in
think
part 4.
I think that's going to be one of the better films. Even though all the other ones have kind of been really good, I think 4 is going to really bring us to the point of maybe even when Art was a mortal human. So I believe he was mortal in up until the end of the first video.
Yeah. What would you do if you had to make a backstory for him? I'll make it like he was kicked out of the circus, or someone he loved died at the circus, or he had like mental health problems because he was close to one of the animals, and the animals died, and he just went off the edge. That's what I would do as a writer.
Yeah, I would try to figure something on his story, but I would make it so it wasn't like, I don't know. I mean,
He
I would
can't
also
come from hell. They did that too many times.
no, we can't come from hell, but the clown is a sacred kind of in horror. The clown to me is a sacred character because there's only like really 2 or 3 that really work, and that would be Pennywise and Art. Other than that, the clown character is hit or miss. And so I would write something that would be more on the lines of maybe he was, or maybe he came from the circus, or maybe he was even, maybe his mother was killed at the circus. Maybe she was raped and brutally murdered, and he was born in the circus.
Right.
And he was beaten and abused right up until adulthood. He ran away and became a sadistic killer.
Right.
Or maybe, he was, if you really want to play the whole circus thing, he was part of a traveling circus, and he ended up with some kind of a gypsy family, and they placed some kind of a curse on him that would allow him to keep coming back.
Exactly.
And they did some kind of rich
mother could have been like a cult leader or something that she gave birth to,
or a sacrifice or a ritual. Something takes place that was on that level of the traveling circus, and then all of a sudden now this dude has been born, and he's like whatever it is, and I would have it be something similar to that. I don't know. I try to stay away from the mental health angle just because I think that's been done too many times with the Joker. They tried that and they pushed that on the Joker.
Right. You want to come up with your own scenarios when having your own franchise,
Oh yeah. But I love what they do with that. I love what they did. I mean, I was a big fan of that when it was just, a very short film, the Ninth Circle of Hell there, and I love the first anthology that they did,
All Hallows Eve.
All Hallows Eve, and I thought that was just great. It was a fun little anthology. I remember watching it, that and the first Terrifier during the pandemic. I was actually homesick with COVID. I was sitting here watching nothing, and I just turned on the first one. I watched it, and I saw there was a standalone. There was the part 2, but then the part 2 didn't have the clown. So I saw there was a standalone with the clown called Terrify. I said, oh, let me check this out. We were all homesick, my whole family, my mom, my dad, everybody's laying on the couch. I picked the movie. We're watching Terrifier 1. By the end of that film, my whole family was like, what the fuck did we just watch? My mom's sitting there literally watching some lady get sawed down the middle. They didn't even know, and I didn't even know it was going to be like that. I figured, well, the anthology wasn't, and I know it was a different killer, but it didn't have all the blood and gore that they brought in the first Terrifier.
Exactly. Well,
but I
when
would
I
say
make
that's
my movies, I try to base my movies on the ones I came up on in the 70s and 80s with a kill count. I believe every good horror movie, unless it's psychological or something, or, depends on what type of story you're telling, but I try to have a good kill count, some good kills, because That's what us as the horror community want to see.
So you would say like your favorite genre would be like slasher film?
Most likely. But I like stories too. Even my movies, I mixed up the gore with stories. It ain't just like a straight gore fest. It's interesting stories, and
Well, that's the thing. I think that every movie you got to have that fine line of, you just can't just do kill after kill, otherwise it becomes it's whatever. We're just watching, just like Faces of Death or something. Just a bunch of
I grew up
shots.
on Faces of Death. Me and my friends used to rent them. Oh my gosh, I loved it.
I just
I'm just
actually
finding out now how fake it is. Some of the segments was fake. The
I
director
get it.
came on
I
YouTube.
get it. Growing up, I thought that it was a real documentary. I just found out myself recently that it was actually all basically faked because they
Footage.
re-released it and they re-released the 4K version and there's actually a new one coming out.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for the new one, but I found out from the director he did a YouTube video talking about it. A lot of it was footage, but some of the stuff was written.
Yeah,
But
and I mean, you figure that otherwise it would have been probably. Well, I mean, at that point, people were very. There was a very thin line of what was horror, what was snuff, what was documentary.
one of my favorite characters, I gotta get a shirt made. I keep forgetting about it. I want a Dr. Francis Gross shirt.
Nice.
I want a Dr. Francis Gross shirt.
Yes. What are you
I like
thinking
in
over there,
part two
Vic?
how they said, my colleague, the guy with the big bulging eyes, he said, my colleague, Dr. Francis Gross, has died. He went mad.
um,
he, had,
you
he
look
had
deep
that
in thought there,
voice.
Vic.
He had that voice. He was fit for that. Faces of Death. He had that voice. And he reminded me of Robert Stack from one of my favorite series, Unsolved Mysteries.
Yes. Now, see, I thought that show was scarier than anything. Just the
Yeah.
intro alone scared the shit out of me. And if I, as a
Yeah,
kid,
the
if I
intro.
heard
Do
that
do
dude,
do 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 do
and then,
do
and then
do
his
do.
voice, his
That deep
voice was
raspy
scary too.
voice. He said
Yeah,
in
that was like,
1963, young Helen was in a hole. She vanished. And you
and
know
they
what
had
also scared
like,
the shit out of me as a kid? I used to hide under the covers when that shit came on late at night, that Tales from the Dark Side theme.
yeah,
That was some scary shit.
because that show wasn't as funny as Tales from the Crypt. Tales from the Crypt was more funny.
What about monsters? It's candy critters.
You know, it's funny though. As a kid, everything was a little bit scary. Everything was a little bit darker. Everything was a little bit creepier. And as an adult, it's not so scary, but it's almost at some points like comforting to watch these things.
I like it. It
Thing,
reminds me of my childhood. It takes it back. What was your favorite tale from the Creep Show movies? Mine had to be the Hitchhiker from part two. The Hitchhiker.
from
Thanks for the
the hits.
ride, lady.
Yes. Oh my God! I would have to say that it would either be the one with Stephen King where he finds the meteor.
That was good. What about the Raft? That was in part
The
two, right?
the rap was in part two. I like that, but I also like the Indian story.
I think part two had the better stories.
It did. Part one had the better actors. They brought in actors in casting, but two had almost the better stories.
My favorite story in part one has to be the cake.
Oh, the cake! You have my
That shit
Father's
was
Day
creepy.
cake.
Just the atmosphere that was
Bedelia,
creepy.
where's my cake,
I
Bedelia?
got my cake, Matilda.
And they used the ashtray, which has been used in every single thing. And
Yeah.
that's that iconic ashtray was used to kill him.
I had the privilege of meeting Adrienne Barbeau
Really?
many times. Very nice lady. She signed like a lot of my Creep Show stuff, and I got her in some Escape from New York stuff. Very nice lady.
And that's the thing. I do find a lot of these horror people are just very nice. Again, horror people are my people because I think we're able to embrace the dark side. So we're able just to be nice people because we have an outlet. We can, when we're upset, we're mad, we're angry, we put on a horror flick and we just vent.
Yeah. You
You
know what's
know,
my all-time favorite horror movie?
what's your all-time one?
I seen that as a kid. I watched it every Halloween. It just touches my heart and my soul. The Midnight Hour. It was a
That's a
Channel
good
7
one.
made for TV film. It had some heavy
Okay.
hitters in there. Sherry Belafonte, LeVar Burton. What's the dude's name from Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Kevin McCarthy.
Okay.
Um, Dick Van Patten from Eight Is Enough.
Oh
It,
wow.
it, 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 great movie. It's on YouTube. You should check it out. Somebody put it on YouTube, but it was a made-for-TV Channel 7 movie from a young kid. I think it came out in 1985.
Wow.
It's a great film. I got a couple of people on there. I got a couple of people on my posters and on the DVD from Anchor Bay. But yeah, that's my favorite all-time movie. And then my
Oh, that's
second
nice.
favorite is Texas Chainsaw 2. I know that
I
movie by
love two.
heart.
Two is great. One was fine, and one was whatever.
Part
But
two is
two,
the best. The
that was
cook,
fun.
man, the cook is funny, man. He should have did
The
stand up.
cook. That's the one guy I wish I never got to meet was the cook. Unfortunately, he passed.
Yeah, he
I
passed, and his autograph is rare. You could hardly
it is.
find it.
But I did meet Bill actually last year out on Pennsylvania. He was
Bill
actually
Mosley's a nice guy. I know Bill.
he did
I
the
met him
chop
all
top.
through the years.
He
Yeah.
dressed up as Chop Top, and he was with the hitchhiker from One who dressed up. So I did the photo op
I never
because it was
got
in
to meet Ed
character.
Nair. Hopefully, he'll come to one of these conventions on the East Coast.
No, he was there in Pennsylvania. I think he's coming back this year too.
And which
He was.
show?
I went to Creature Feature last year up in
Oh, see, I never
Scranton.
been to Creature Feature. I got to check that one out. I mostly go to Monster Mania, New Jersey Horror Con. Shout out to Ryan. That's another
I'm
great
going.
show you need to
I'm
try.
going there the end of May. I've already got my tickets for that.
Yeah.
Actually, all those stream people are going to be there. Mike Levy, a bunch of people from that whole franchise.
Yeah, Ryan has a great show, New Jersey Horror Con, and I do Monster Mania. And I used to attend Shella a lot, but I signed there a few times, but I haven't been back there. But these conventions, it's becoming like a big notoriety because when I started, all we had was Fangoria Weekend at Horrors. That was the
Yeah, and you
longest
were
running
also paying.
convention. And then the second longest running one was Chiller Theater. And shout out
Yeah,
to
but
Kevin Clement. Shout out to
let's
Kevin
talk about
Clement.
let's talk about the real elephant in the room. When you started these conventions, the guests were $5 to $10. Now they're 150 combos, and they want $20 for a character name.
Listen, when I started Fangoria Weekend at Horrors, these took place in the tri-state area in New York City. Everything was free because the studios would bring stuff there. I have a bunch of stuff that I didn't pay nothing for. I done met Lee L. Emery from Texas Chainsaw Remake. I done met so many people. This has become a multi-million-dollar business now. But
Yeah.
Fangoria used to be free. You paid your little 20 to get in.
I mean,
Everything was free.
I talked to people that met like Gunnar Hansen and stuff. They're like, he was $5, $10 plus a free photo. They weren't looking for these $110.
Yeah, I met Gunnar, nice guy. That's because the studios bought the people there. Now, like I said, in this
Now
day
it's
and
now it's the
time, this has
handlers.
become, in the last 20 years, a multi-million-dollar business.
So you have the handlers coming in. The handlers, they want their cut, and now all of a sudden these photo ops and pictures are $100.
I don't charge for my autograph when I do conventions. You buy my movies, I'll sign it for you. And I mostly give away like free posters and stuff. But yeah, if anybody wants to check out my stuff, you could purchase my movies and memorabilia off my website, scaredstiffilms.com. I have a YouTube channel where you can check out my trailers, my autograph signings. I have a couple of shorts on there and other interviews. It's SS Movie Network altogether, and I have my movie Second Chance on Amazon Prime.
And
You can
let me
check that
ask you,
out.
but you can buy all your other movies on the Scared Stiff website?
Yes, scarestiffilms.com.
So I was
I
gonna
took
ask.
the
I'm a big
website
fan of
down
physical
today.
media, so
Yeah, I took the website down today because I'm making changes, but it'll be back up tomorrow. You can purchase my movies at scarestiffilms.com, and Second Chance is digitally streaming on Amazon Prime.
okay, sweet. Like I said, I mean, I'll check that out on Amazon Prime just because I like the convenience of it. But at the end of the day, even the stuff that I've either bought digitally or watched digitally, I still buy the physical media. A, for two reasons. B, I like all the extras, the features. I like a slip cover. I like freaking all this other bullshit that comes with it. But I also like the fact that I own it, and because someday Amazon might not own your movie, freaking this guy might, that guy might own this. The internet don't freaking work. Fucking something happens, and
Right.
I just want
Well,
to
I'm a
watch a damn
physical
film.
media guy, and especially in our horror genre, our horror community, we still collect physical media. For example, I collect Laserdisc still. A lot of
Yep.
stuff that got lost from when I was young, I'm rebuying stuff. Um, some of those VHS is worth a lot of money too.
They are, but if you think about it, those VHS is what made horror where it is because a lot of these movies flopped in the theater when they came out in the '80s. They didn't do the multi. They weren't making Scream 7 money back in '80s. And so
Exactly.
the VHS market is where they got that money, the rentals, the
Right.
distribution, the people loving this shit, eating it up,
Right.
wanting more.
Right. Exactly.
Well, this has been a great interview. Like I said, are you going to be at the Jersey Con this May?
I'm in the middle of shooting a new film, and I'm working on editing two films, but most likely I'll be there
If you're
because
there,
I
definitely,
want to
I'll
meet
reach.
I want to meet the Texas Chainsaw guy.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Well, definitely. I'll shoot you a message that week. I know I'm going out there. Maybe we can link up and hook up and say hello.
Definitely
But
get a picture or two. You know,
definitely, definitely. And I can have you
it's been
sign some of
nice
the.
talking to you. I appreciate you putting me on your podcast.
Anytime. I'm gonna buy some of your films this weekend. I'm gonna go to the website and check them out. And I'll do some reviews and such. I love watching new horror films. I love seeing what people do. I love seeing people that I talk to what they do because, like I said, it's one thing if you have all this money, but I like to see what people do that are on the
Yes,
independent level because they're not working for the crowd. They're not working for the masses. They're working for them and their vision. And that's where the passion is, when they want to see their script go to the next step. That spark of
exactly.
life. Well,
This
thank you
is
for coming on.
Rakeem JH Lawrence, and y'all are watching Horror Nights. Tune in, check out this episode, check out other episodes. And once again, you can check out my YouTube, SS Movie Network. All together is put all together, no spaces in between. You can purchase my films from my website, scarestiffilms.com. And also check out Second Chance on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. You heard it there, folks. And I'll put those links right in the description so everybody can just go click, click, click. Thank you, everybody at home, for watching. Stay spooky. Have a good night, everybody. We're out of here.